What is going on, everybody? It's your boy John, and welcome back to Gearbox. So today we are doing a lovely, although actually not really lovely, road trip from Destin, Florida back to Greenville, South Carolina. Had a nice little 5-day getaway to the sunshine and beaches of lovely Destin, and now we're back to reality. But since we are almost done with our 7.5, well, actually technically 9-hour car ride, because went to a wedding in Gulf Shores yesterday, blah, 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 whatever. What better time to film a video for this wonderful YouTube channel? So we are going to get right into it. Obviously, as you guys know, this channel is primarily around cars, trucks, just the automotive industry in general. But as you might know, if you've been around the channel for a while, I am also a big proponent of aviation. I have my private pilot's license. I'm getting my instrument rating as we speak, which is a whole nother story for a different day. But a question I get a lot of times is, whether it's in the comment section of these videos, whether it's in day-to-day life when, the idea of being a pilot comes up, I always get the question of, why aviation? How did I get into aviation? And I think it's a marginally entertaining story, so I figure I'm going to tell you guys. So let's go back to itty bitty Johnny Boy as a sparkle in my father's eye before I was even born. My father is a private pilot. He is just a pilot as a hobby, just like me. Doesn't do it professionally or anything like that. I believe he got his license, his private license, when he was like fresh out of college. So way before I was around, but whatever. Literally some of my first memories as a child, and I know this sounds ridiculous, but some of my first memories is around aviation. I mean, I literally have pictures of baby me in a car seat in the back of a plane, like a GA plane. And so really my entire life I've been around aviation, and I've been enamored by it, to be honest with you. Aviation is one of those things where, if you start asking people like, oh, you're a pilot, or, how do you know someone's a pilot? It's really two things. One, they're going to tell you because we all like to brag on ourselves. And two, every single time you hear any even remotely close sound to an engine overhead, you look up like that and look for a plane. That is me to a T. I love aviation. I've been around it my entire life. So now we fast forward to, teenage me. I've flown with my dad plenty of times. I've loved the idea of getting in a plane with him and going for a $100 hamburger or whatever. But now it's time that I kind of decide, hey, Dad, I really want to get into aviation. I want to start to pursue my private pilot's license. And of course, he was super thrilled. He did not force me to do this at all or anything. It was a genuine, thing that I wanted to do. And what was special about it was, between the ages of maybe 10 to like 15, my dad really didn't fly at all. I'm one of 3 boys of his and, my mom's, and, life kind of got in the way and didn't really have the time to dedicate to aviation. And so it was kind of a lost passion for him. And one of the really cool things about my private pilot journey was as I started going to the airport and learning how to fly and doing all that fun stuff, he also got back into aviation. He went and got current again and started doing some flying himself. And what was really cool was that as I was going through this training, doing the initial ground training, doing your first landings, learning crosswind landings, tracking VORs, cross-country navigation, all that sort of stuff, my dad was there to encourage me. He was there to help me. And really, he was a great resource for me to really teach me outside of what I was learning from my CFI, since he'd been doing it for some time at this point. And that's one thing that, as great as the aviation community is, if you are in a situation where, you know, you are the first person in your family to even touch an airplane, it can be kind of isolating from the standpoint of there's really no one you can talk to in your day-to-day life that's going to have an inkling of an understanding of what it is that you're talking about. It's so... aviation is full of super dense information, and to the right people, it's very, very interesting. But to folks that aren't into aviation, they could give two shits about a cumulonimbus cloud. You know, like they don't find it interesting. It's not their passion. But the folks that are in aviation are typically very, very passionate about it. So, all that being said, I was very, very grateful that as I went through my training process, I had my dad right there next to me to, you know, I guess experience it together, for lack of a better term. So I went ahead, I got my license when I was, I want to say maybe 17 or 18 years old. I think it's 18. And then I went off to college. And as some of you guys may or may not know, I went down to South Carolina and played college football at a small Division I, like FCS school called Furman University. Played offensive line for 4 years. But unfortunately, one of the things about playing college sports and at any level, really, is that you now have zero free time. You go to school, you do your football, you do your weightlifting, you do your training, you do all that sort of shit. And really, outside of drinking an occasional beer on the weekend, you don't really have time to do anything. And so with that being said, I didn't fly for a while once I got to college. Not only did I not have the time to do it, but I no longer had the connections I had back in Cincinnati, Ohio, where I was born and raised, where I was a part of a flying club and I had planes to rent and I, knew people that I could go up with on a weekend and just go up flying for shits and giggles. I no longer had that being in South Carolina, so it made it pretty difficult for me to get the flight hours that ultimately I really, really wanted to do and remain involved in the aviation world. That is until, I think it was maybe my sophomore, junior year of college. I met a guy, it was during the football season, and I met a guy who was my age, went to school together, whatever, and he learned that I was a pilot. And he basically said, hey man, I would love to have you out to my grandfather's place, and he's got, a couple planes, we'll go fly on the weekend. And I'm like, absolutely, once the off season hits. Don't have time now, but in the spring, 100%, let's go out there. Now, I don't want to divulge all this information. I want to keep it fairly private because it's quite an operation they have over there. But ultimately, this guy got me into flying World War II planes. Basically, we went out there, we flew a Boeing Stearman. They've had, have a P-51 Mustang, they have a BT-13, couple Piper Cubs, experimental aircraft. They've got a bunch of stuff. And when I went out flying there, I was like, man, how do I pay you guys back? Can I at least pay for the fuel or something? And they're like, no, man, we just want to share aviation with people. And I'm like, okay, well, how about I come out here on the weekends and I work for you, and then we can continue sharing aviation and we can continue flying these really badass planes. And they said, absolutely. So in the off season, I would go out Saturday mornings, 8 o'clock, run a bush hog, work on planes, work on, dump trucks, do whatever it was that needed to be done that day, and basically a farm mentality. And at the end of the day, they would basically pay me in flight time. And that was awesome. So cool. And I got to experience some really, really cool planes and some really, really awesome flights with some amazing people. And I am forever grateful for that experience. It was amazing. Still go out there to this day, not as often as I wish I could. but really, really cool nonetheless. You know, ultimately, I ended up flying planes that, you know, you ask pilots that are 70 years old, and these planes are on their bucket list of planes to fly because of the history of World War II and just how aviation was back then. There's no electrical systems, there's no crazy GPSs, it's just stick and rudder flying, and it's awesome. So, long story short, got some flying at that point, and then we graduated college. And I decided, as I'm still doing now, I want to go into sales. I want to pursue, you know, kind of a business role, and that's what we're doing. But I always knew that at some point in time, I would love for aviation to be a much larger part of my life than it has been for the past, you know, let's call it 6 years, playing football and getting out of college and not having the funds to pursue aviation. Now, that kind of led me to my instrument rating. I knew that in order to take the next step in aviation, an instrument rating just had to be done. It doesn't have to, but it has to, especially because one of my long-term goals is I would love to own a plane. And I would love to be able to share aviation with my wife, my friends, my family, whoever, and be able to take long cross-country trips to the beach. You know, we fly to Destin, go down there for the weekend, fly back, not an issue in the world. And I knew that in order to do that safely and, you know, efficiently was to get my instrument rating. Now, couple that with the fact that being an instrument rated pilot will significantly lower your insurance premiums when it comes to owning a plane. That was a must. So here we are now, getting our instrument rating. We have our check ride this week. I'm super excited for it, a little bit nervous, but I think I'll be fine. And that's going to be step number one. Now, moving on to future aviation endeavors, one thing, so I've had this conversation with my wife 1,000 times. She does not like the idea of me flying a single engine plane that is from 1976. As much as I tell her how safe it is and the annual inspections and the this and the that, she does not like it. So when it comes to the conversation of owning a plane, she says, I don't need one spinny thing, I need two spinny things, which is its own conversation in of itself and a lot more money. But if that's what it takes to own a plane, I'm going to go to great lengths to make that happen. So once I wrap up this instrument rating, I will be pursuing my multi-engine rating. I do have a handful of hours in multi, but nothing super like formalized, if that makes sense. It's kind of hard to explain the multi that I was flying. It's called an AirCam. Go Google it. Super, super cool plane, but very, very different than your standard, you know, Baron or 310 or whatever. So anyway, that will be my next rating. I will be probably pursuing that either the tail end of this year or the start of 2025. And once again, just continuing that journey. Whether I need a multi-engine rating or not, I just like the idea of pursuing ratings. Same thing, at a certain point in my time, I'd love to get my seaplane rating. I already have my tailwheel endorsement. That's a good one to check off the, you know, check a box. But, you know, seaplanes. Will I ever fly a seaplane? Probably not. But I think it would be really, really cool to have that rating and just continue learning as a pilot. Because as we all know, a pilot's license is a license to learn. And, you know, when you stop learning as a pilot, you become complacent, and that's how people get killed. So as much as we possibly can continue learning as, you know, an aviation enthusiast, the better off you're going to be in your aviation journey. So that is basically, in a nutshell, my aviation journey. I would love to hear your aviation journey down in the comment section down below. Just kind of wrapping things up. You know, if you're contemplating getting your IFR rating, go get it. If you're contemplating getting your multi, go get it. I know it costs money and it continues to become more and more expensive, but if aviation is a true passion of yours, I'm telling you, it's going to be worth it. I've loved every step of the way, getting this instrument rating, getting back into the swing of things as far as flying consistently goes. And it's been nothing but a great experience for me, so I urge you to do the same. But once again, guys, if you like this video, please give it a big fat thumbs up. If you have any questions on my journey, drop them in the comment section down below. And once again, I would love to hear about your aviation journey as well. And go get that next rating. As always, guys, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell. You know the drill. And until next time, peace.
We came off the same jet. I'ma need a section cause we tryna make them bottles pop. Shawty see the team and how